What's up, Star Wars Unlimited fans? It's Loopee here at Late Night Gaming, and we are here to round 6 of the Learn with Commentary series of the Chicago PQ. And we have a Han Green from Top8 Gamer in this match. It was undefeated, 5-0, and we have a Han Green expert with us. I've heard you've played this deck before.
Ian? Yeah. What's up, everybody? LegoPizza. Some people call me Ian, but I prefer LegoPizza because it sounds funnier. I'm from the Bothan Network. I have a podcast called Across the Network where we discuss random stuff going on in SWU and what's going on with the Bothan Network with my beautiful and wonderful co-host Jonathan Fisher. You've probably seen me around playing a lot of Han Yellow, but I also dabble with Han Green, and in fact won 2 PQs this season back to back with the Maryland PQ and the New York City PQ with Han Green. So definitely a deck I know very well. Yeah, and a leader I know well.
Yeah, and those were, particularly the New York City, was a murderer's row in the top cut of players that have really been successful. I think, was it Tata that you had in the final?
Yeah. That was probably my favorite game that I've ever played in SWU, and I'm glad that it was caught on camera because it was the finish of that game. The game 3 was absolutely wild.
Just wait till you win a game with It's a Trap. But all right, so but this list I actually now know, and I don't know that you knew this before, but your Han Green journey kind of picked up with some people that were over at the Bothan Network forum. And Mickey told me that he saw this list that actually was very, very well. I mean, it got way into the top cut in Chicago. Both of these pilots got into the top cut, but this was the origin of what got stuck up at the Bothan Network. So you took it from there and, I mean, really made a deck that slaps. But what do you see about the list that Top8 Gamer Brian ran in Chicago that day?
Yeah, I mean, I think people will probably recognize Top8 Gamer's handle because he's been playing this deck since set 2. I think he top 8'd in set 2 with Han Green. He's been in a lot of different deck forums talking about the deck. I think he's in the Bothan Network and has commented in our Han thread there. I know he's been in the general SWU Discord as well, talking all about this deck for the last 6 months or more. So he's been super prevalent, and this build is definitely what my team had kind of took, and then we worked our, Bothan magic on it to get it to the point where we wanted for specific matchups. But this list is super interesting because it has notable cards for me is R2, Commission, Leia, and Big Falcon. So the Leia is really good into a lot of different decks. It's really good into other Han decks because you can make sure that Han doesn't get to the 7 resources on the flip turn. It's really good against suited up leaders like an Anakin with a lightsaber or a Sabine with a darksaber. It's just a really great tempo play, and it's also one of the best cards to find off of U-Wing if you need a Marauder. Right. Since Marauder has the weird 5 cost, it's usually not the most optimal play. You don't have too many cards that you can actually grab as a second card with it, but Leia is one of the best ones for that. R2 is and Commission kind of do some extra duty here for having some resilience against discard decks and just manipulating the top of your deck in order to find your important 7 drops for various matchups or to close the game out with a home 1. And the Big Falcon's a great smuggle card for the 6 resources when your Han gets disrupted. So there's a lot of really great stuff with this list. And yeah, we had taken a lot of the core values here and kind of just worked it for the metagame that we had expected at the PQs, for me in the Northeast.
Yeah, and a
super solid list.
I mean, and it's correctly on Echo base is the green base, as opposed to something else.
I'm a Maz Kanata's Castle fan, but I understand that people want to play Echo base with their Echo base defender. So yeah, I'm not going to shame anybody for Echo base.
I just played a Han Green that was on Naboo, there, and I asked what Han's doing on Naboo. All right. So
is that the new base for set 4?
Yeah, there's a green base on Naboo. It's actually a beautiful base. In fact, I have one, right in front of me here somewhere, that I opened. But I saw that and I just thought it was funny because I don't think Han ever got there. All right. So this is the Sabine list. And this was Savvy22, who's a KTOD guy, played this very, very well the last round was Savvy actually coming back from a deficit, having lost a game one into Quinlan and getting there in the next two games. I think this exact list was referred to as Justin's anti-Quinlan build as of the date.
Nice.
There, because it has lots of one drops trying to play under curve, and it has lots of swords. I mean, a lot of the Quinlans were running Bamboozle, which has become just a hugely important card, amusingly enough, as we go to jump to Lightspeed. But
even Han Yellows play it too, just as a way to, even with all the card disadvantage that Han has, it's still worth it to play it, especially in the out of the sideboard for decks like Sabine and stuff.
Right. And with the pilot leaders coming up and jump to Lightspeed, to the extent that those are around, particularly early in the meta, I'm not sure how long they will all stick around. I mean, Poe is very good. Some of the other pilot leaders are really a risk to deploy on a ship because Bamboozle kills them. But this Sabine list is main decking a couple of Bright Hopes, and then kind of has the things that you would expect in the board.
How do you feel about the Yularen, the one of there? I've seen that in some Sabine lists, but I never. Is it just for the health threshold for some decks?
Yep. So if you look at the meta from this, and this is actually, I was on Django that day, and I felt really good about that because I did not expect much Han yellow at all, just because of the player pool that's there.
Yeah.
But the top four decks, dominated the field, and it was Sabine, Cad Bane, Carlos, who's on your team, won the big event before that we had a couple of weeks before this. So Cad Bane was very represented. And then Quinlan, this had a lot to do with me and Mickey. I mean, I had actually won the Madison thing with Quinlan Tarkentown. We had just done the masterclass, and then we had Django there. But I think that the Yularen is very much looking at that Cad and that Quinlan, trying to change the math of, the Tarkentown stuff, because giving more health to every heroic unit is a very powerful effect.
It makes a lot of sense. This was, I guess it was like during the very beginning of the PQ season, because there was a lot of Tarkentown at the beginning.
Yeah, it is the beginning. This was the first, PQs, and this one was fully maxed at a full field.
And that makes a lot of sense. Yep.
And really did well. So what we're doing with this Learn by Commentary series is we are focusing on kind of like a cross between coverage and a masterclass. And we're trying to have, people that are very familiar with these decks kind of commentate on the lines and, how to play. So I've really been impressed with the quality of this. Shout out to Mickey. We have Grumpy Elephant coming on, who had the bell of the ball with Quinlan ECL here. And both of these players really piloted well. At this point in the event, they're both 5-0, sitting at table one and playing for an in, right? Because if you're 5-0 and you go to 6-0, I mean, that you've made the top cut. You don't have to really stress.
Yeah, so if you see here, Top 8 Gamer quickly mulligans. He sees his hand doesn't have resupply. He ships it back. That's a very good, disciplined Han Green player in my eyes. You really got a hard mulligan for resupply. It seems counterintuitive against aggressive decks like Sabine, but when you get that turn one resupply and you're able to then play like a 4-drop into flip Han, play a 7, you win almost every one of those games. So it's super vital that you get that resupply.
Right. So I think both players mulliganed.
It looks like Top 8 Gamer's got 2 resupplies in his hand.
What do you do with that?
Play them both.
That was my answer too.
Turn 2, flip Han.
I think he kept a Luke in hand, which surprises me.
Yeah, I agree. So one of the weird things that this Han Green deck will do, especially when you play a lot of off aspect cards, like I was playing Cad Bane in my list as well. You will have these weird scenarios where you draw all of these bombs that you can't really play for a long time, and you just got to resource them. It's he ends up resourcing it when he activates.
He had a plan for Luke.
Yep.
All right. So
looks like Sabine missed their first turn play as well.
Savvy has not had a good run in game one on first turn plays. He missed his first turn play in the last round too, and he kind of got rolled over by Quinlan that match, but was able to come back with 2 very impressive wins. Thereafter, Han plays an R2, screens his hand.
Yeah, probably just looking to make sure that the Han player can curve out and get a 7 next turn for that deploy turn. Because there's not a lot of things that Sabine can actually do to interact with Han on the flip turn if it's a turn earlier. Because it's, you don't have a Poe ECL target because you're only at 4 resources. So
Right. And the second resupply comes down.
yeah, it looks like he opted not to activate Han and deploy because he only had one other card in hand. Might have just wanted to keep it as an option for next turn in case he doesn't draw a bomb. But it does look like he drew a U-wing reinforcement, so we're most likely going to see that hit the table.
Right, and you don't do the Han action if what you have is U-wing, right? You probably just deploy against Sabine and
yeah. I mean, against Sabine, like I said, there's really no way for them to actually kill Han or tap Han in Sabine Green on the 4 resource turn. The only thing that they might be able to do is if they immediately deploy Sabine and put a Darksaber on it, they could kill Han. But in that scenario, you should be able to, because he double ramped, he doesn't have to activate to get Han out. Right. You can flip Han out, and then you'll get the attack off before the Sabine Saber attack happens.
Right, and by attacking with Cassian, I mean, that's not a problem.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so Han goes into Cassian.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually kind of like hitting base here.
Uh-huh.
I know he gets to have the free kill with the R2 on the Cassian, but having the Han out this early lets you apply a lot of pressure. And you do have a 5 health point swing. So getting like a Han into base and then getting like a Han unit afterward can clean up that Cassian instead. And maybe that's a better way to do it. But he chooses to kill the Cassian with the R2, and maybe now he'll be able to just get rid of the K2 with the U-wing.
Yeah, and I think you're looking for Han unit right here, right? Not Luke. Luke is
correct, because he didn't have a unit leave play, so Luke doesn't do -6 here, so the value there is kind of weak. You could also, I mean, my list was running modded cohort, which would be a great hit here if you get like a modded cohort and then like an echo based defender that could back up to protect Han, because Sabine wouldn't be able to kill it, would be really good. But even just double echo base here is really strong, as Top 8 Gamer has done, because now Sabine can't get through that, and now you have a second Sentinel. So the ECL Poe turn that Sabine's going to want to do here is just going to get stonewalled, and you're going to get another attack out with Han.
Yeah. I almost, given how that went, I wouldn't have hated Sabine ECLing the K2 to kill the Han before the U-wing, so you didn't have to worry about Han leader anymore, and drop a card. Actually, one of the few matches where you might consider using the discard effect as Sabine into Han Green, because until he stabilizes, it can get pretty thin pickings.
I mean, it's not a good sign for the Sabine player when the Han player has to move his base to get his board ready.
That's true. That is a true statement, my friend.
Yeah, and especially here, like Han has 7 even without the Han attack, but he noticeably does go to 8 with the Han attack. So if he has something like home 1, I think the game's just over at that point.
Yeah. So chooses to attack with Echo Base first, ensuring that it can happen. ECL is active, so I think that makes complete sense. In his good
I
sequence.
just realized that the Sabine player chose to take initiative instead of deploy Sabine.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess since the Sabine doesn't kill the Echo Base, there's no point.
Yeah, you don't really attack with it, and you take the initiative. I mean, it's a tough situation, kind of how it happened with the double ramp. I mean, having Han have 2 resupplies is getting up there real fast.
Yep.
And
all it takes is usually 1-7 after that, and then it's really hard for the Sabine player to come back.
Right. And by the odds, I mean, Han probably does have either another U-wing or a home 1 by now. I haven't seen anything in the hand. I see a Poe Dameron for Sabine, which is okay, but I mean, it has.
Yeah, the Sentinel makes things so awkward because you can't use the Poe discard to kill the Sentinel or the Han, because the Han only has 3 damage, and he did have the home 1, just gets another Sentinel in the way.
Scoop City, I think that was. Oh, nope, it's Cassian coming up from the row. He's never surrender. Never give up.
Yeah, it's a brave Cassian. He's got a lot to fight through.
Well, He's a rebel. He's waiting for Andor.
Turning your
season 2.
R2 into also restore 1 is pretty gross.
I love in Jump to Lightspeed with yellow green. I've been playing a lot of Akbar, but the new R2, R2, that can be a pilot is just gross with Bright Hope. Being able to pull it up and then pilot it, so good.
Yeah, I think there's probably like 2 different ways you can build Han Green next set. You can either go like super pilot focused and play like all the cool new pilots like Luke and Chewie and R2, and then you can do more of what like this traditional, at least in my mind, like almost casino style is, where you're still playing like the off aspect stuff in home 1. I think they're like, you almost have like a convergent path on the way to build the deck, because the pilots kind of lead you in a different direction.
Yeah, pilots don't play particularly well with U-wing and reinforcement. I mean, that is a true statement, but Marauder does. The Luke pilot is kind of an exception because he hits for 2. He's a 2-drop, and
Luke pilot with Bright Hope. Oof.
Yeah,
that's some fun stuff right there.
Well, that's in my
Pick him up for value after he gets killed and ejected. Ooh, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess it looks like the Sabine player scooped after getting hit with a home 1, getting put to 19, which is fair. Yeah, that's just a lot of those kind of games when the Han player gets to double ramp like that. If there's any big top end that comes afterward, it's just really hard for the Sabine player to come back. They're not built for that.
All right, so top 8 is up 1-0. Let's go back to the deck list. What are you doing for Sabine if you're top 8?
Yeah, so I probably, honestly, the only cards here, maybe I slink down like that.
It's clear.
It's probably the clear the field right here.
Yeah.
Just this card.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, just this one. This is hard because it's mirrored for me. But yeah, so the clear the field could help a lot. You establish some early tempo. It can fill your curve. I think Lux is interesting, but Sabine doesn't really do anything out of curve. You would only want to bring that in case you want more 3-power 2-drops. But I mean, like I said, you really want to just resupply in this matchup. That's the big thing. Sparks, I actually really like Spark into Sabine in Han Yellow, because oftentimes you're going to be deploying your Han against an ECL that hasn't been used, and they're going to try to PO you. Right. So I really like discard effects to see what kind of cards they're working with to use on the ECL, whether it's a PO or a Wrecker, to try to take those cards out before you deploy Han. But because Han Green gets to deploy a turn earlier if they ramp, it's less important. I kind of wish they were Kira's, because if those were Kira's, I would want to bring them in. Just because that's a card that you can play the turn after you resupply for 4 resources and can really jam up the Sabine players' hands and make them play awkwardly. But yeah, right. And based on this configuration, I think I would put the clear the fields in, and cards that maybe you take out, maybe the commissions. It's pretty hard for you to try to play the commission game plan of like spending 1 or 3 resources if you smuggle versus Sabine, because they're just a little too fast for that. You really just need boots on the ground. So yeah, maybe just take out the commissions, put the clear the fields in. I don't even know if you need to put all 3 in. Just like the 2 would probably be helpful.
Do you think Spark of Hope is good in that matchup for Han?
So I think it is fine enough to keep in, because there are weird scenarios where you can get it off early. There's some cool plays that you can do if you play like R2, the new R2 or set 3 R2 on turn 1, when you're like trying to fish for a resupply, but you get a Spark of Hope instead. And then you run it into their 3/3 twice in order to trade with it, and then get to eventually ramp. But yeah, it's definitely not as good against like if you're playing against control, it's a lot better because they're gonna kill your units for you.
Yeah, and I'll make this really easy. The only card that comes in is Spec Force, or the Spec Ops soldier, the the one drop because there are Sentinels. The echo based defenders are annoying. I mean, I don't think that you do anything else.
Do you know if Savvy Blue at the time knew that the opponent was playing Luke?
I don't think he knew yet that the opponent was playing Luke because he
there wasn't a Luke shown. Right. So there's like maybe a question that you bring in Wolf as a way to stop the restore. I mean, he saw home one, so maybe you bring it in for weird scenarios where you can play a Wolf like first action after they play a home one if it's like close where you can still win. But it's probably too niche.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at probably taking out the red 3s because, I mean, as much as it's nice to put damage in, I mean, against a deck that has the max Millennium Falcon 1, in it, red 3 just really feels bad. All right, so back to the matchup. Sabine takes initiative, not surprisingly. Looks like 2 Marauders, which, one of the best things to get is 2 Marauders and an R2 unit, the yellow R2. I mean, that feels good because... I mean, that Marauder will be on if you've already discarded another Marauder.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do with Han Green, it only comes up in there's the Clear the Field that we had talked about as a pretty good sideboard card here. Just setting the tempo and not letting the Sabine player have a unit turn 1.
Yep, and Sabine is famously poor, if you get rid of the turn 1 play, by hook or by crook. I mean, I think it's fine to bounce there. I mean, Han will win if this game goes long with like 100% certainty. Sabine plays Yularen into an echo-based defender, which is actually not great at all for Sabine either.
Yeah.
Yularen hits for 2, and the echo-based defender has 3 health.
Yeah, we're going to see this. This is a really cool play by Top8 Gamer. He's activating Han for no additional value so that he can put a Marauder into his discard, because he has the second one in hand. Right. And as some people might not know this, but you can Marauder and target another Marauder in your discard in order to ramp.
Right.
That's actually one of my favorite plays. Like I said, this comes up like 3% of games, but you can go turn 1 resupply, and then on turn 2, if you had 2 Marauders in your opening hand, defeat one of the Marauders from your discard, and then activate again at the 4 resource turn. Since you ramped, go to 5, play Marauder, and then you get Han out on turn 2 with a 4/5. It's really gross.
Right. All right, so both players considering their options. I mean, the Echo Base is basically the ideal unit. I mean, I presume that Savvy didn't have another 3-drop other than Yularen.
Yeah, I would assume that more of your other 3-drops are better. Like a Cassian would be better there.
Yeah, you certainly a Cassian would be better. He correctly uses K2 with ECL, and knowing Yularen, I was able to solve that problem. For now, when Yularen dies, the K2 will die. Top8 is setting up as Marauder.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because Top8 Gamer has another Clear the Field in their hand, which they could bounce the Yularen to kill the K2, but they chose to just put it in their resources to set up the Marauder play. And maybe they're just going to use Han to try to kill the Yularen. But letting that K2 stick feels kind of bad.
Well, Han can't kill the Yularen.
Yeah, I mean, they could
action.
set it up in 2 turns, but yeah, not in 1 action for sure. Or 1 attack. Maybe they just claim because they have this Han unit in hand.
All right, so I think Han should run into Yularen right now. I normally do agree with you. I think it's go base.
So you could run into the Sabine, and then you just first action next turn use the Han to kill the Yularen, which will then kill the Han unit in hand. Because you're going to be at 7 next turn anyways.
Right.
Looks like, yeah, so this is the problem. If you attack with Han, then there's a chance the Sabine player just claims so that they can get the value off K2 here.
Right.
So, yeah, I think there was probably merit into just claiming and not attacking with Han, just so you know that you're getting the Han unit out to the 7-drop unit to be able to kill Yularen and make sure that K2 doesn't get another attack out.
Right. That said, I mean, Sabine has only done 4 damage. going into 5 resources. That's no clay a thing. I imagine it's going to be 7 damage now. Sabine
yeah.
should
So
take
I
damage.
forgot he had to destroy a resource too. So now he actually isn't at 7.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if he had claimed, he would have been able to attack with Han guaranteed last turn or this
Ooh,
turn.
Sabine
get to
chose
7.
Sabine chose discard with K2 instead of damage.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And got a home 1 or a U-wing reinforcement, which is very good, but I don't think it affects anything this turn.
I'm actually interested in why he might have chose to discard the U-wing instead of the Han unit, because I feel like at this stage of the game, he might want to actually try to fish for something like a Luke or,
Right.
Okay, well now he gets rewarded for keeping the Han, just guaranteeing to be able to kill the Poe next turn. Oh, actually no, it doesn't work because the Yularen.
Yeah.
Man, this Yularen putting in a lot of work.
Yeah, not what I would have expected against Han Green, but I mean, any given Sunday, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can't see top 8's hand very well. I mean, it matters what else is there.
Killing the Sabine.
At least he notices. He knows he can't kill Poe.
Right.
Yularen gets a restore and moves Han Green to 15. Damage on base halfway there. Bon Jovi would be happy.
Yeah, this game might be away from Top 8 Gamer at this point because this Poe gets, oh wow, that's gonna be what 4, 6.
That's
And this
that's
card for
lethal and
12?
two more actions for Sabine is what that is.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, even a Luke here isn't enough. Yeah, he just scoops it up.
Yep. All right, so we're going on to game 3, and that was very well done by Sabine. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe the testing.
maybe the Yularen play was on purpose. They just knew that the life point totals, like getting a K2 to be able to kill a Sentinel and live, and Han having 4 power when he attacks, like those are pivotal things to know, and seeing someone be able to use that to their advantage is really awesome.
Yeah, no, and it very well could be testing before. I mean, knowing your deck, knowing the matchups. I mean, in retrospect, certainly. I mean, I think you're right calling out the clear to field that was in hand. On that turn. I mean, with Sabine, right, with aggressive decks, sometimes the max ramp is not the right way to go.
Yeah, it's also you get to save a card in hand if you delay the Marauder play. If you just clear the field, get rid of the Yularen, let him deal the 3 to your base with K2, you're saving. That K2 ended up discarding a card from his hand, so you save 1 discard there, and then you're also not activating Han to put the Marauder out on the 4 resource turn. So you're saving another card there. And as you saw at the end of the game, he had like 1 card left in hand, and a lot of times that can be make or break.
And he had to set it up. Now, I think it's a whole different story if it's not a Yularen, but an A-Wing up in the space arena that the Marauder's going to be able to snack on.
Yeah, like if that was red 3, like he probably did, like you said, sideboard out those red 3s. But like if that was a red 3 and the Marauder just gets to eat it, like that game's probably over instead. So
in retrospect, I don't know that. I mean, it was necessary to do to get the Marauder in the discard or seed it that way. Given the board state. I mean, certainly in retrospect, if he had a different 3-drop, right? If he could clear the field and play an Echo-based defender. I mean, I think that puts him in a better position than what ultimately ended up happening with the K2 getting the kill on the leader. And credit to Savvy. I mean, the claim there without attacking with Sabine was the play.
Absolutely.
Of the game,
that
right?
was a masterful claim. Like those are the type of plays that I see all the time that separates like good players from great players, is knowing when to claim early to get some sort of like weird advantage over your opponent. And in this case, it's knowing that the Han needs to attack the following turn to get to 7 resources and having the ability to kill it off with a K2 that should be dead, right? Like you're just getting free value. And being able to just claim early, like saying, I don't care about this 3 damage because now you're not going to be able to do your game plan, which is going to be worthwhile. So.
Yeah, and Sabine is a deck that, I mean, some people have the perception. I mean, typically, like, jilted hard control players. I mean, we'll talk about how easy it is to pilot. I mean, I think it's anything but. The differential between good and bad Sabine pilots is, I mean, maybe Han Yellow is the only one I can think of where there's that much, variance between there. But there's a reason that the same people keep winning, round after round. I
agree.
This is an ominous start for Han. I mean, the Echo-based Defender is okay, but it's not resupply, and a Battlefield Marine is going to trade into the Echo base. And
I believe that he should be at 3 resources here. Right.
He needs to kill a resource.
Yeah.
And he's thinking about that now.
Yeah.
Catches it before any harm done.
If he doesn't have another 3 drop. Oh, okay. This is why. He had the Spark of Hope.
And then he set it up.
That makes a lot of sense.
That way. We see Wolfie Boy, coming back
There's
again.
There's the Yularen again.
He's hungry. He's hungry like the wolf. Yularen apparently is good enough to get a heroism, trait. 25,000 years of service by Huang, not enough. He's going to be neutral.
Yep.
He's a hero in the Star Wars saga, Wolf Yularen. All right, so Han.
Oh wow,
resupplies. Okay.
So this allows him to always get to Han next turn. It looks like he has a Han unit in hand.
Plays a Han unit.
Yeah. So the cool thing he gets to do here is take 7 damage from a Darksaber, but you will be able to kill the Darksaber Sabine if you attack into it with Han this turn. Which seems like a weird play, but oh no.
He goes base. That's not good.
I think he needed to hit the Sabine.
Yeah, Sabine cannot kill Han in one action either. Attacks base, doing 9. Well, what do we have? Clear the field now. Yeah, remember that Sabine had another health. I mean, she actually would have had 9 health, there.
Yeah, but if you attack your Han leader into it, you still have she still have less than 6 health for the Han unit in hand that you get to then do first action because you'll get the initiative. I think that's because now you're just setting yourself up to get ECL Pod, which doesn't seem great.
Doesn't have
here's the Fleet Lieutenant just pushing a lot of damage.
Yep. So
I wonder if he's going to do the play now and just try to kill the Sabine with both Han in hand.
Only Hans. Can they team up and take out the
only Hans, baby?
Don't tempt me with playing the video. I've done it at several of those coverages. I might have it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is just Sabine knows their role really well in this game. It's just push as much damage as possible. Don't let them, kill your important cards.
Right.
See, and this is the thing. If he had just attacked the Sabine last turn, he would have gotten initiative and been able to save himself whatever 9 damage that the Fleet Lieutenant did.
And
Darksaber Sabine did.
Wise man saith in Star Wars Unlimited, if you can attack for 9, attack for 9.
Oh, you attack, yeah, every time, baby.
All right. So, whether Wrecker exists is highly relevant right now.
Yeah, super relevant. I mean, I think that would be game given the other units out.
Yep. And looks like Wrecker exists. Okay, we have Wrecker come in. Should use the when played to 5 damage to Han and then do 6 overwhelm, taking top 8 to 24. Only 6 damage left, 6 damage on board. He's got to find an answer here. Let's see. There's an Echo-based defender in the discard. He's at 8. So home 1's okay, right? You got U-Wing. He doesn't have home 1. He has U-Wing.
You're pretty much on U-Wing for Luke or bust.
Oh, yeah. Well, will he hit Luke? It's 10 cards.
The problem is that it's not actually... Like, it'll help you this turn, but you're going to go to 27. You can claim...
28.
And then
Sabine will ping, too.
Attack with Luke and go back to 24, but...
Yeah.
I think if he had the Luke, he would have slammed it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's right there.
It's right there. And that's what you play.
Yeah, I think if you do have the Luke, you kill the space unit so that next turn you can attack the Luke into the Fleet Lieutenant.
Right.
So that you could kill something and then also heal 3.
Right. So
which then makes the opponent present more threats out.
So that takes you to 25, and then it's whether Sabine has 4 cause.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, he goes double Sentinel instead of Luke. Saves more damage this turn. It will kill the Fleet Lieutenant if it attacks. I mean, Sabine is there, but...
Yeah, I think this is like a reasonable choice as well. The problem is it doesn't solve any damage problems for the following turns.
Right.
Because even though you get to essentially stop their attacks this turn, you're going to end up at the same life total as if you had attacked with that Luke. And the Luke gets to kill both of them anyways. So, right. I don't know.
All right, so teetering on the edge. We don't know. I don't know anything about Sabine's hand. I haven't seen anything about it. Back up to 6. I mean, you want 4 cause, I believe, and that's what you want to have.
That's the name of the game right now. Is just find the last bit of burn damage.
Right. It's possible that Sabine sided in Daring Raid too. I think there was Daring Raid in the side, if I recall. Not great into Han Green.
Yeah.
Not awful.
It also makes your 4 causes worse.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know, after my 2 PQ wins, I did play 2 more PQs, and I lost twice against the Sabine to go X2. They were my second loss both times, and each time it was for a cause for exact lethal when I had a Luke out that was going to win the game.
Oh, so, well, that's how it be. That's how it be.
Yeah. I mean, I think 4 cause is just one of those cards that's just super important in this matchup. Yep. For Sabine to get that last bit of damage.
Yep.
So.
And, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what Jump to Lightspeed has in store. Game got faster.
I definitely agree with that.
All right. Well, can't stop a ping. Do you see a 4 cause? I can't tell. I see a Poe for sure. Poe is not.
Yeah, this is more of a reason why I kind of prefer to have the Luke in that scenario. Just Sabine has that inevitability that's really hard to counteract.
Right. All right. So Han is going to 6. What's that about?
Might have
Echo base in the row. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, no, you could do that with 5. It might be a big Falcon.
Oh. I don't know that helps that much. I mean, if he had Kira, that might... I mean, it's actually too late for Kira. Well, Kira 4 cause is not horrible, except he only needs 1.
Well, unfortunately, so I was actually in that exact scenario in a PQ where Sabine was at 6 resources, and I Kira to see what they had in hand. They don't have anything relevant in hand. The only out is 4 cause, but even if you name 4 cause with Kira and they're at 6 resources, they can still play it. So,
all right,
because it only makes it cost 3 more.
Well,
did he just not play anything in past? What happened?
I think he claimed.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that activation was.
I don't know either.
Maybe he just miscounted his resources and thought he was at 7 to do a DJ play.
He could have DJ'd for 5. Tech is out. But
oh yeah, I can't. I don't know. Very interesting.
Right. Well, Ewing's what he needs. Ewing can take care of Sabine unit with a Luke.
No, it can't.
Oh no, because of your Lauren. Yeah, you're right. You were right.
Yeah.
So
you need Sentinels again. I don't know if there's any left because 2 of them have died. So I think there's just 1. Yeah, that doesn't die.
That is true. Sabine should be alive, though unable to do. Her on attack would still work, so she can still effectively attack for 1. That
is true. I don't think
0.
it's going to matter here because you just died at 2 pings, or or ping an R2.
Yeah.
He doesn't have anything else to do to be able to stop the R2 attack.
Yeah, I think you are right. And there is the fist bump. So great match. Savvy improves to 6. Now let's just flop back to the deck list. Well, I mean, Yularen actually looked pretty good from what I saw.
Yularen was great in that matchup. Weirdly enough, when I asked about it, I didn't know ahead of time that he was going to have any role in these games. I just thought it was an interesting one of.
So, great matchups. I mean, I think that Sabine, I mean, you don't feel real bad if Han Green's across the table. The first match was the nightmare scenario where you miss your turn 1 play and Han has 2 resupplies. And that's pretty tough. But I mean, I thought we saw some very sharp play, by Savvy throughout, kind of dealing with, the Hans.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Savvy played really great, knew their role, knew how to interact with the Han player to make sure that they don't get to 7 resources on pivotal turns, and was able to use that to their advantage to take it home. Yep. Especially coming from I know a lot of players, when they lose game 1, they can, kind of feel like, I pretty much lost already, and kind of get down on themselves. But, reverse sweeps happen all the time. I've reverse sweeped many opponents in my tenure of SWU, and you just gotta believe in yourself, believe in the cards that you're playing and your game plan, and just commit. And he did a great job of that.
Yeah, and I think Brian played great. Top 8 certainly. The deck is kind of revolutionary. At the time, just kind of some hards. I mean, Sabine was pushing damage real fast. I mean, I think the Dark Saber in the 3rd game was tough, and I wonder how that plays out had he elected to stick a Luke, with the second.
Yeah, there was a couple interesting choices that Top 8 Gamer had that I probably would have went in a different direction, but I think one of the reasons that people feel that Han in general is a really hard leader to play is because he presents these scenarios like how to get to 7 effectively and consistently that no other leader really has. And I mean, I know he plays Han a lot and has been playing this deck forever, but even in those weird scenarios where it's like, what do you do against Sabine Darksaber? Like, are you supposed to just, claim early, or are you supposed to attack into it and weirdly kill your Han on purpose so that a Han unit from hand can kill off the Darksabered Sabine? Those kind of play lines, it's a lot easier for me to at my desk at home sitting, not having any pressure on me to commentate on these games and be like, well, maybe, you do this or that. But when you're in the moment, these are hard things to wrap your head around, because you're also worried about what's in your smuggle row and not remembering to not forget, you have triggers for Han at the end of turn that you need to, destroy a resource. And there's just a lot of little intricacies that happen throughout the game that can lead you down a path one way or the other of different play lines. So it's really hard to keep track of all that stuff. And I mean, he played great. It's just wasn't quite enough. But I mean, you said he made top 8, right? So
both of these advanced. We'll see more of both of these players, or we have seen. So thank you so much for Ian for joining us. So where do people go if they want to get more Han Green content from you?
Yeah, so as I said at the beginning of the episode, I have a podcast called Across the Network. We discuss competitive Star Wars tips, tricks. We have guests each week. That the whole name Across the Network is to be show that we're reaching across the aisle, not just from within the Bothan network, but from lovely people like Loopee from Late Night Gaming. I'm sure we will have people from KTOD on from time to time, McClunky Gaming. Just to have, interesting topics to talk about with interesting people who are really in the weeds of competitive play to bring people the, top cutting edge advice, tips, and tricks for competitive SWU.
Yeah, and you and your, partner in crime over at that podcast, I mean, he is, a stud when it comes to coverage. I mean, anytime we've needed somebody there, I listened to your whole podcast. These guys are just starting out. They started their channel last week. So I mean, please help them out. We want the people that are good for the community to, do well. So go over there, give them a like, subscribe, and I look forward to working you on more stuff. LegoPizza.
Yeah,
so.
we got a cool new intro this week, so definitely check it out. Well, it's really cool, I promise.
Speaking of cool cool intros, let's see if I can get this one. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, baby. Only Han. Let's go.
All right, we're going to wrap up with Only Han. Join us tomorrow for another match going over and analyzing. Later, everybody.
See ya. Thanks again, Loopee.